Hi, guess what? On this one, I steal my sway bar off my Malibu and I make it work for the 51. Mustang bump steer kit on here, finalize shock assembly on the rear and pinion angle, like a lot. Get a lot done. I'm really excited for it. Let's go. So I am borrowing some parts from the Malibu for this one. It will get its new replacement parts when this is all done. Don't worry. That's fine. I wanted an off-the-shelf sway bar, and trying to find something that would work for this custom setup is just, it's so difficult to know without knowing, just looking on the internet trying to find information on certain things. And then I got to thinking one night, like, I just want to pull the one off the Malibu and just see where it sits, how it sits, and how close it is. And I think this is gonna work. Like, let's see here. So it is almost pretty much in line with this hole, even though I'm not gonna use this hole because I'm gonna use these Heim joint style. I'm gonna weld some new tabs onto the control arm up to mount it to here. And then it like falls right in line with this brace, like right where it needs to be, which is like awesome. So I'm thinking, because yeah, I want to make this work. And look, here. So clearance wise, like plenty of clearance. Like that's a ton of angle. That's probably more angle than the rack actually has in it. So can't go wrong there. Plus I'll build in some bump stops or some steer stops on the backside of those control arms once I get the steering and stuff locked down. But I think this is going to work awesome. My plan, I think I'm going to cut off this support brace here. Leave the structure in where it's riveted, but like right behind it, cut this off. And then make some 5/16 plates that extend out to where the mounting is, so that this thing have something to mount up to, and then do gussets off the frame, like on both sides, to kind of box it in to really strengthen that up, because this is where all the rigidity, like it takes its force, to the chassis to transfer it to the tires from side to side, how the sway bar works. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited about this little project because of how this is all going to work. So I want to, what's the first step? I guess the first step would be, let's get this mounted up. So we're going to cut these off, build plates, mock it up, tack everything in, make sure it still all flows. And then we'll work on tacking up the new mounts for the lower control arms to get those Heim joints in there. Sweet. And this is this is a G body from UMI Performance sway bar, solid 1.25 inches. So like this thing's gonna handle like it's on rails if this all works, and that is awesome. Just got my ends cut off, and then also the little tabs that were on the lower control arms gone. Here's my template. So this is my thought. And because it's gonna be out of 5/16, and it's gonna be basically welded to two pieces of the chassis, and then I'm gonna spot weld it a couple places on the back and then weld it in here. I guess I didn't consider that the bumper brackets actually go here, so I can't like build gussets off, but I think the gusset will be basically how far in this goes, and how thick the plate is. I think that's gonna work out just fine for me to put two bolts in here, and then there'll be, there won't be that much stress on there that I think that it's gonna bend 5/6 inch plate. And if it does, we'll address it later, but I think that it's gonna be sufficient for what we're doing here. So yeah, I got obviously my template here, traced it out on the 5/16 plate. I'm gonna cut these out and then mock it all up, and then yeah, go from there. Got both plates made up and then the mounting holes drilled in. So basically these will mount underneath here. And I'm gonna tack weld these in and then mount the bar up to make sure all my clearances and everything are right and where these need to be. And then go from there. Got the tabs just tack welded in, and then I have the sway bar bolted up, and I'm kind of at a standstill right now because I don't know how much the rack actually has in it for play, because I want to utilize as much of it as I can for the turning. So I'm gonna have to wait until I get my end links in order to figure all that out, because I need to know how much clearance I have. Like you can see, I have a tiny bit of clearance right now between the tire and the sway bar, and then the whatever that piece is that mounts to the steering knuckle. Is that what it is? Maybe. Whatever. The spindle part that mounts to the thing that does the stuff. That's what that is. It almost comes in contact with the link right there. So they're like equal distance right now, which is like perfect. But I want to know, like, is this as much angle as the rack can handle, or is there more, or what? And then after that, I'm going to have to build some kind of like bump stops on the back sides of each one to like compensate, to make sure that I can get enough out, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to wait until I can get the rack in and then the steering linked up to know my steering throw, and then we can go from there. But this is actually looking really good and I'm liking it a lot. For the Heim joint mounts that mounts to the control arm there, I'm going to utilize what was left over from the Dirty Dingo engine mounts, and you can see my scribe lines there. I'm going to cut this section out and basically put those two together, weld them together. I'll drill holes on each side there, and this will basically fit inside there, and then I'll cope. I'll round out. That's not my mark. I don't know what that mark is there for, but I'll make it go, fit around the lower arm real nice. So that's what I'm gonna knock out right now, is just the tabs in order to place my Heims. Got both of the tabs made, and then basically grinded them out until they fit around the bar properly. And then I'm just gonna throw it down. Awesome. So basically come on. Nope, it's fighting me. Hold on, there we go. Zip tied up in the position that I want it, because I have to make sure I clear this. That's my whole goal. So it'll come in, and I think that's more than enough steering angle that the rack provides. So we should be good there. And I know I said I'm gonna wait, but I can't wait. I just wanna like do stuff, So I'm gonna tack this in, and then take measurements off just this one, where it is like in space on distance and angle, and then I'm gonna basically transfer it over that so they're similar, and then that should be good, because this has plenty of play. Like you can loosen this up and move it around just a little bit. So I'm gonna throw down the bracket again, but I'm gonna try to shove this over as far as I can to get as much play out of this as possible. It's quite a bit already, so not really worried about it. Yeah, let me tack these in. So I got to thinking, like, I can figure this out. I don't need the tie rod ends in order to figure out the distance of the rack. So basically I set the rack centered and then basically pushed it over as far as the distance was as it was centered, and that's how much throw you have. And like, I have plenty of clearance for the max steer on this rack, so I'm not worried about this whatsoever. I know this is going to work awesome. I'm going to go ahead, fully weld everything in then, and I got a sway bar, so that's awesome. Hopefully the end links though are going to show up today according to my tracking, and I'll get that knocked out too. Moving on to the rear shock setup, I'm running QA1 single adjustables on the rear. I just kind of guessed on my specs for my lengths and stuff like that for travel and rebound, compression, rebound, how much travel I have on that. And then I just got some generic weld-on brackets. These will weld to the axle, and then these will bolt to those. And then the shock will bolt in between that. And then I got a couple of tabs here for shock mounts. And if you remember, or if you've been watching, like I got a bar across the top, the frame rail section, and that's what these will tie into. So I basically got to make everything work, set the car up in the air so I can get underneath it, obviously, and then just basically put this in the middle of its travel. And if I'm off by a little bit, that's what's nice about this setup, is that I can move this wherever I want according to the bolt holes. and just dial it in. So yeah, I'm gonna get this thing up in the air, start mocking all this up. First thing I actually want to do is set my pinion angle. I know that from when I installed the engine that I took a measurement from this front corner and this back corner, and there was an inch difference. And then the engine was at 3 degrees back down, which means I have to make the pinion go 3 degrees up. So I basically took a piece of flat stock off the surface there, and then my just gauge right there in order to, I got 3 degrees, you know, loosened these up, turned it until I got where I wanted it, put it where, you know, there's tension on the suspension, and that should be good to go. So now I'm actually gonna tack these in. Once I'm pretty sure this is centered. I gotta double check all your measurements, obviously. So once I know that this is centered in my correct angle, I'm gonna tack weld these in, and then we're gonna move on to the shocks. So it's kind of difficult to see, but that's the bracket right there that welds to the axle. I just got it tacked in the appropriate place, and then it bolted in. And then I have the axle at full droop, because when I did my math, if I do it at full droop and then I put it up to where ride height is, I should still have 2 to 2.5 inches of compression. So that is kind of where I have it set right now. I have the shocks at full extension, and then I pushed them down like maybe an inch. No, not an inch, sorry, 1/8 of an inch. There we go. And then I welded in the tabs to that upper bar that I have welded into the frame there. So I'm gonna finish weld it off when I separate the chassis from the body, but this should work. I'm gonna cycle it through its travel right now just to make sure, but I'm pretty confident that it's good to go. So I have the axle at full compression, even though there's not that much weight, or as much weight as should be on there, but there is 2 3/4 inch travel right now to go up. So I'm guessing it's gonna be another inch when I get weight onto it. So if I have to do adjustment, that's what this whole setup is. Like, I can just adjust it up. I just don't want it to be, when it's completely drooped out, to be relying on the shocks as that strength to hold everything up. You never want that. You're gonna hurt your valve bodies inside there, especially with expensive QA1 shocks like that. Do not wanna do that. So fine tune it later if need be, but this is actually looking really good. UPS man just dropped off Competition Engineering C2408 bump steer kit for a Fox Body Mustang. But because I'm running a Thunderbird style power steering rack and pinion, this should work, because that rack and pinion is from the same model as this. We're gonna have to modify it a little bit because these links are a little too long. So either I'm gonna have to modify the links, or I'm gonna have to modify how many threads are on the steering, the arm that comes out, that thing right there, that guy. So what I kind of want to do is just mock this up first, and to see like how much play I have, and then to make my adjustments and cuts according to that. And then hopefully that will give me enough adjustment for the in and out in order to dial in my toe. And then these spacers and stuff like that will help me dial in my bump steer. So what's nice about this kit is that it's threaded all the way through. I'd show you, but you can't see. The reverse thread, though, is only threaded as far as the Heim will go. So basically it stops right there. So we cannot modify this section because we need all this meat here. But regular thread is all the way from here to here. So we could basically just cut this off where the hex starts. Is that what, I don't know, the part you put your wrench on. We basically cut the smooth part off, and we still have plenty of engagement from there to there. But there's way too much thread on here for it to play with. So I'm gonna have to do some measuring and some math, and then I'm gonna come up with a solution in order to make sure that we have maximum engagement with slight adjustability with everything where it's at, everything centered, so we can really dial in the toe. Basically where I decided, cut this much off the thread, this much off this piece here, the link. I'd give you measurements, but I don't want anybody to come back at me and be like, you told me wrong, because this is kind of a unique setup. But yeah, just make sure you measure and you have enough room to play. Got it all set up. So pretty much the amount that I lobbed off here, I used as a spacer here in order to get the correct, well, it has to be in level with the lower control arm, like in the same plane or whatever, in order to eliminate bump steer. And the kit didn't come with enough spacers, so I basically opened up that aluminum section and used as a spacer and then another spacer in order to get it right where I wanted it to. And then I went ahead and I put it in toe alignment, just in space, because I know that this is pretty much where the ride height's going to be. And then I wanted to check to see like turn to turn. And I had to build bump stops, or steer stops, I should say. So that's what that is right there. And it's a Allen head bolt 3/8, I believe. So it's adjustable if need be. I can put spacers behind there or washers or whatever in order to get more or less out of it. But I just wanted to make sure that it's not running into anything, you know, and or maxing out the steering whatsoever. So yeah, plenty of clearance, plenty of turning radius. This is gonna work out awesome. So I'm completely not gonna apologize for the way I'm looking right now and how amazingly not my hair is. Been working hard, got a lot done in the past, well, it was last night and all day today, all day Saturday, in order to get all that done. Sway bar from a G-body, crazy, right? Works, awesome. Steering from a Fox body Mustang. Shocks, custom shock mounts, pinion set. That's a lot in order to get everything mocked up. So now I basically can blow everything apart. I can take everything apart and it doesn't have to go back together until final assembly, which is awesome. So I think that's the next step, is actually to blow the car apart, get the chassis out from the car, finish weld everything, paint everything, and start assembly. Like, that is exciting. Like, I'm excited for that because that means things are starting to go back together, and it's the last 10% that takes 90% of the time, but I'm happy to be at that point. So if you guys made it this far in the video, hit that like, hit the subscribe. I really appreciate it. Making huge headway on the car. So we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks.